Right, welcome guys. Sorry I'm late. I'm a one-man operation and I was trying to set up the stream and got turned around on several things. So sorry about that. So today we're going to be going over a couple of stories. Well, it's more than a couple of stories. The top 3 stories that we have: Trump shuts down an ABC reporter. And we're going to go over that story. I know that there's going to be like, okay, why are we talking about why Trump shut down an ABC reporter? Well, we're going to talk about what led to that incident and talk about, the integrity of the press. We'll just take a look at why that happened and just cover that story. Then we're going to look at Obama, who received the Nobel Peace Prize for his skill in diplomacy, seems to have a habit of stirring up, not controversy, but stirring up trouble where there's none, or finding trouble where there's none. We're going to look at him, and then he feels more division. And then we'll look at Speaker Johnson exposing the Democrats, because we're still in a government shutdown. And what is going on with the Democrats? Why are they holding onto this shutdown? And what are the reasons that they're giving? We're going to listen to Speaker Johnson dismantle some of the reasons, or at least the major reason that they're giving for the shutdown. And finally, we're going to be looking at our mostly peaceful, friendly neighborhood activists, Antifa. All right, they're being mostly friendly or mostly peaceful, and we're going to just cover that again, because we have to always remember that there is a narrative that the mainstream media is trying to push, and then we always have to look for the truth of the matter. I'm going to talk briefly about a certain Presbyterian minister, pastor, priest, who has been in the news recently, and I'll just talk about it during that segment. You guys, please remind me when that segment rolls around. Okay, so let's jump into the story. Oops. Again, sorry. Solo operation here. Let me fix my audio. Let me fix my audio. And let me know where you're chatting from. Let me know where you're chatting from. What country are you chatting from? And while the stories are going on, please, let's have you leave a comment in the comment section. All right, so that we can all have a contribution on what the stories are, on what's going on in the news. I have a bunch of news items that I wanted to cover today, but we'll just have to leave it till the next stream. So let's jump right into this.
ABC fake news. Brian,
first of all, congratulations.
I don't take questions from ABC fake news after what you did with Stephanopoulos to the Vice President of the United States. I don't take questions from ABC fake news. Brian, go ahead.
Yes.
All right. So Donald Trump being combative. And when people see this, they say, well, Donald Trump is being divisive. He's being divisive. He's the most divisive president we've ever had, because the man refuses to be politically correct. Now, what is all the hullabaloo about? What's all the trouble about? So here's what happened on ABC News. ABC News hosted the vice president, and this is what happened that got President Trump so stirred up.
Thank you for your time this morning.
No, George, I said that I don't.
Up next, we'll be right back.
So they were in the middle of a conversation. Judge Stephanopoulos cuts off the vice president. The vice president is trying to tell him, look, I'm not done with answering the question that you asked me. And then they cut him off. I don't know about you, but that is very disrespectful. If that were a Democrat vice president cut off by Fox News, I would equally be upset. It's not about Democrat or Republican. It's about decorum, the way things should be done. And this happened to the vice president. And of course, President Trump didn't take it lightly.
Brian,
First of all,
I don't take
congratulations.
questions from ABC Fake News after what you did with Stephanopoulos to the Vice President of the United States. I don't take questions from ABC Fake News. Brian, go ahead.
Yes, sir. First of all, congratulations on achieving peace. You are indeed the peacemaker. On a lighter...
Did you ever think I was going to be called the peacemaker?
Actually, I did. I saw some of the actions you were...
Go ahead.
But on a lighter note, Alyssa Farah, she is one of the hosts on ABC's show The View. She said a while back, I'll quote, "If Trump gets the Israeli hostages out, I promise I will wear a MAGA hat for one day on this show and say thank you for doing it." Your response?
I don't think she's going to do it. That's my response. I don't think she's going to do it. I don't think that ABC or The View will let her do it, even though she made a bet that no one asked her to make. She's not going to wear the MAGA hat. If she does, we'll cover it on the live stream. Now, why does this story matter? The story matters because when you have media outlets treating sitting presidents and vice presidents the way President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance have been treated by the media, it poses a problem. It poses a problem. President Trump was canceled from social media platforms. A sitting president was canceled. He had his account taken away from him on X, on Facebook. People who covered his content on YouTube were either suppressed or had their accounts taken away from them. You had media outlets refusing to cover his speeches. When he would be making a speech, they would, cut away when he's about to say something very important. That never used to happen. There was a time when the office of the president was sacred. Today, it isn't. And why is that? Because of the way mainstream media have handled the office. Now, there's a lot of argument about whether President Trump should be so combative with mainstream media, but we wouldn't have heard about fake news if President Trump had not exposed them to us. All right, greetings, Canary King. Thank you for joining the live stream. If you're watching the live stream, please let me know where you're watching from. And leave a comment in the comment section. In the chat. I want to have a conversation with you. Now, concerning this story, before we move on, this is a very short story, short and concise, but it's very impactful because here we have mainstream media doing what they do, attacking the president, belittling his achievements, and extending the same courtesy to the vice president. Do you think this is the way it should be? And I'm talking about both sides. Should Fox News treat a Democrat vice president the way ABC News treated J.D. Vance? This is something that a lot of people don't really think about because their guy isn't the one in office. As soon as someone they like is in office and is on the receiving end, all hell breaks loose. There's a problem with that. Look at what's going on with Letitia James. Letitia James spent her campaign for AG of New York screaming from the rooftops that she was going to spend the entirety of her tenure prosecuting Donald Trump and going after his family. She said it openly. She said it loud and clear. And finally, when she didn't succeed, at doing that, of course, they will tell you that, yeah, he was indicted on 36 felony counts and he's a convicted felon. She succeeded. She didn't succeed. She only succeeded in exposing the rot in the New York justice system. She exposed herself. And now that the Trump DOJ investigated her, exposed fraud, everyone is saying that President Trump is going after his political enemies. Did she commit a crime? It's about time we find out if she did. If there were actual crimes that President Trump committed and he got indicted on them, and it was a clean series of hearings and the case was closed, there'll be no complaints coming from me. But where you have made up charges, and when I say made up, I mean these were not essentially criminal charges. They were made up and they went after him. Now that the justice system is going after Letitia James, it's the weaponization of the justice system. James Comey is in court. The justice system was weaponized. But all of these people were all chiming or singing the song, "No one is above the law." It should swing both sides. It should swing both sides. Kenneth Kane says Trump was treated poorly, very poorly. I totally agree. He was treated very poorly. Now, would I speak the way President Trump speaks to people I don't like? I wouldn't. I don't talk the way he talks. Would I confront people who talk about me like the mainstream media do and attack them the way he does? Probably not. I wouldn't. So I wouldn't say that I endorse his personality and the way and the forceful way he goes after his enemies. That's not who I am. And that's possibly the reason why I'm not a billionaire. Well, wouldn't you say so? Because it takes a certain kind of person to achieve the things that he's achieved in his life. A kind of aggression is required to achieve the things that he's achieved. So people who don't have that temperament tend to not understand people who do. And then they try to demonize them and make them look like they're evil or they are less than human. But there's a reason why President Trump is so successful and people like me are not. I am a very nice, amiable person. I want to be liked. I want to be liked. If I go into my comment section and see people hating on me, I feel bad. President Trump doesn't feel bad. Sometimes I get secondhand rage from the way he's treated because I wouldn't like to be treated that way. Okay, but he doesn't care. He doesn't like he's built differently from all of us. All right. So let's just call a spade a spade. Kenneth Kane says they actually went after him on charges. Can you imagine that? Well, the question has always been, were those charges legitimate? Let me know in the chat. Do you believe that the charges that Trump was charged with were legitimate? Did he pay off the porn star? Yes, he did. Do I endorse cheating on your wife with a porn star? No, I don't. What does the law say about the case? That should have been the argument. All right. Now, would I endorse his behavior? No. I mean, we just need to be clear because when we have these kinds of conversations, there's nuance, there's something to be said, there's something to be learned. However, there's a way these things are handled in the secular arena, in politics and in the justice system. The justice system was weaponized against President Trump. We all saw it. I sat in Africa looking at it, and it was clear as day that he was being attacked because do you know what? It happens every other day in Africa. All right. In Africa, every other day, people get the justice system weaponized against them. So I recognized it clear as day. So let me know in the chat. Okay. So please jump on the chat. And if you're watching, please consider liking this video and sharing this video. Help us spread the word and get more people to watch the video. Next story. Barack Obama is making the news yet again. Barack Obama and
force against their own people.
Barack Obama currently is the leader of the Democrat Party. No matter who's president, he's the leader of the Democrat Party. He's the crowned eternal leader of the Democrat Party. And I don't think that he is the best thing for the Democrat Party at this time. In fact, going forward, he should simply just be silent and just go away. That's my opinion, but most people might think not. So let's listen to what he has to say. Obama rebukes Trump. Okay. This is after Obama refused to directly congratulate Donald Trump on signing the Middle East peace deal. Directly refused to mention his name, even went as far as retweeting the tweet by the winner of the Nobel Peace Prize, dedicating the award to her people and to Donald Trump. He retweets it, but does not directly congratulate President Trump. So it feels like he's bitter. Let's watch this, then I'll just continue my commentary on this whole thing.
When you have military that can direct force against their own people, that is inherently corrupting. When you have...
All right, so he's speaking about President Trump, and he says when you have someone who can direct force against his people, that is corrupting. The people, and here he's referring to, now there's a range of things he might be referring to. Let me know what you think he's talking about. I think he's talking about the ICE raids, ICE going into communities and arresting criminal illegal immigrants, and then happening upon undocumented immigrants, who've been here for a long time, and a lot of people don't like that. I don't like that. However, there's a reason for that. Maybe we can talk about it before this segment is over. He's also talking about the riots in Portland. We have riots in Portland. We're going to cover it. People obstructing federal agents from doing their jobs. And the federal agents have to defend themselves and have to push past them to do their jobs. They are not the target of the ICE agents. And now President Trump has to send in the National Guard to protect federal property and federal agents. So it's one of these three things. And President Barack Obama, I don't like calling people former president like they did for President Trump. Okay, I think they invented that. Okay, so those of you who have been conscious of the way it's done in America, you've lived in America, is that the way it's done? When someone leaves office, do you suddenly start calling them former president, or do you still call them president? I think they still call them president. That's what I've always understood. It is a lifetime honor to have been president, and you keep that title, even though you're not a sitting president. But I think the mainstream media, in order to embarrass Trump and in order to belittle him, they invented that phrase, former president. So let me know in the chat if that was something that was made up by the mainstream media or if it has always been that way. I just want to know. Please educate me. So President Barack Obama might have been referring to one of these things. Okay, I want to just break it down and talk about this because there is something we need to do, and that is just to be very conscious of when some of these seeds are being put out there. What are the key issues? Let's talk about the key issues. Let's not attack personalities, but talk about policy. And if the policy is actually wrong, then we talk about it, right?
When you have military that can direct force against their own people, that is inherently corrupting. When you have what looks like a deliberate end run around not just a concept, but a law that's been around for a long time, posse comitatus, that says, you don't use our military on domestic soil unless there is an extraordinary emergency of some sort.
Federal agents were being attacked in California. That's the first time he used it. Second time he used it, law enforcement in Washington, D.C., inadequate. Citizens were being attacked. citizens were being killed, mugged, Washington, D.C. wasn't safe. He enacted it. Third, he's trying to do it in Portland because you have Antifa attacking ICE facilities after a week or so after an ICE facility in Texas was fired upon by someone from a rooftop, killing, I think, 1 or 2 immigrants. And then now he's trying to get them into Chicago to handle the crime situation. But at the same time, we're seeing unrest around the ICE facility. Can you see a pattern here? Can you see a pattern here? There's a clear pattern that ICE is being deployed. Sorry, the National Guard is being deployed to support ICE and to protect federal agents and federal installations. He's not turning the military against his own citizens. And that's just the language that Barack Obama is using right now.
That when you see an administration suggest that ordinary street crime is an insurrection.
Ordinary street crime. How many people died the other weekend? How many people died? Like, you have kids playing on the front porch, according to a report. I don't want to do what mainstream media does, where they just fling these things around. But I heard a report and I saw it on X, where there was a child playing on her front porch, and there was a shooting in the street, and the child got killed. This is happening in Chicago. And President Barack Obama, who is originally from Chicago, is calling it ordinary street crime. So basically, a child getting killed on their own front porch is a regular Tuesday. Okay, I know how it feels to feel your kids are unsafe when they play in front of your house. Back in Nigeria, we had crazy people who would speed down the street. We lived in a gated community, but they would speed down the street irrespective of whether kids were playing or not. So I would always feel apprehensive if my kids were out there playing. Now, that is kids getting run over by vehicles. How about kids getting gunned down when gangs are shooting at each other? It's on a whole different level. So I can't even imagine how parents in Chicago feel about the crime situation. And President Barack Obama is calling it ordinary street crime.
Or a terrorist act.
Or a terrorist act. Yeah, that is a genuine effort to weaken how we have understood democracy.
All right. So that is President Obama's opinion. What do you think of what he just said? Now, looking at the comments section, Canary King, please leave your thoughts in the chat, please. Okay, don't let Canary King win the award for the top commentator today. So Canary King said, of course, the prosecutions against Trump were a witch hunt to stop him from running. Yes, it was. With moral issues, it is not my place to judge, referring to President Trump. Judge not lest ye be judged, but weaponizing the Justice Department is a blow to democracy. How come we don't have President Barack Obama complaining about what the Democrats did? Sorry, I need to reset my AirPod. I was hearing a clicking sound while I was listening to the footage, so I hope this fixes it. As long as the justice system is weaponized against a Republican, it's fine. It's not an attack on democracy. But once it flips and someone from the Democrat Party is being investigated, then America's democracy is about to be destroyed. So that's wrong. So should the justice system be weaponized against your political enemies? No. This happens in Nigeria regularly. I don't want to see it happening in the United States. Do you? All right. So I think we should we shouldn't. We should try to not be partisan. It's hard not to be, but let's try not to be partisan and just call out the truth. For me, I try very hard to be non-partisan. And being non-partisan means if someone on either side does something good, let's give it a thumbs up and say this was good. If someone does something bad, let's call it out. All right, that's what we should be doing. Next comment on the Obama situation. I don't fault Obama. The adventures overseas don't excite me. Let's go back to America first. I agree with America first. I'm even tempted to say, let it be America only. All right. Now, some of you might be surprised that I'm saying that, but a strong America is good for the world. And if for a season, maybe 10 years, America just takes care of America, it will be good for the world, because a strong America is a deterrent to crazies out there who want to ruin the world. So if for 10 years America just takes care of America, I'm all for it. All right. However, people in the Trump administration, or people who understand what Trump is doing better than I do, say that Donald Trump is America first, not America only. He's America first, not America only. Sorry, my wife is texting me. She's asking if I'm live streaming, so let me give her a yes. All right, so America first, not America only. So, do you support this position, okay, of America only? Let me know in the chat. Like Canary King is saying, he doesn't agree the intervention in other people's business. I agree with it somewhat, but I know that in many ways it could be a problem for people out there who need America to step in to solve certain problems. All right. So that's my position. Okay. Let me know your thoughts. Don't be shy. You guys are just, we have a lot of lurkers, people who just sit and watch and they don't want to say anything. Look, we're not going to be offended. We're not going to be offended. No one's going to chew your head off. Okay. If you say something that isn't supportive of our point of view, we're going to examine it and we're going to talk about it. So we're not in a cult here. We just want to get down to the bottom of things. All right. Here is something to consider. This is a democracy, not a third world dictatorship. Be careful unleashing the military in our country. Agreed. So let me ask a question, and we'll ask the question and I'll play the next clip. When you have blue states and blue cities refusing to cooperate with federal law enforcement, stirring up their citizens to the point where they start attacking federal agents while they carry out their federal duties, throwing Molotov cocktails into federal buildings, throwing stones at federal vehicles, and the local police refuses to protect federal officers while they do their jobs. What are the options for the federal government? Let me know in the chat. I'm going to wait for you to let me know what you would do if you were President Trump and you had federal law enforcement out there doing their job. Local PD has been ordered by the governor not to assist the federal agents while they do their job. And assistance means provide security and cover for them while they do their jobs. So they are essentially going out there without protection. Then the same governors and mayors hit media and say, these guys are fascists, these guys are goons of the tyrant Donald Trump. Okay, these guys are dangerous. They use all these words to trigger an emotion that sends these people out there to start attacking these federal agents. What would you do if you were in President Trump's shoes? Let me know in the chat. Now let's play the next footage. This is Scott Jennings, and we're going to listen to this, and then I hope I hope you can give me an answer, because it's really easy to say, well, let's not unleash federal troops on American soil. I have that same sentiment. I don't like troops on American soil. I see what troops roaming around the streets of Nigeria does. It's not nice. Okay, it's not nice. When you normalize that kind of thing, it doesn't end well. So I share the same sentiments, but what would you do if you were in President Trump's shoes to solve this problem? Okay, if you want me to give you some options, I could give you some options and then you can pick. All right, I don't want to break the stream by going in and trying to do a poll. Okay, but a poll would be nice to say, look, A, do this, B, do that, and C, do that. And let's see how many people make a decision that actually works, because when you make a decision, there are consequences to decisions. When you make a decision, there are second order effects. That means this decision is taken, other things will happen as a result of this decision. So I hope you can give me your thoughts in the chat while I play this.
Yeah, I mean, he's been the most hyper-political and hyper-partisan post-president we've ever had. He's still acting that way. They're not over the fact that Donald Trump won the national popular vote last year. And they keep warning about the same things that they were warning and fussing about during the campaign, to which the American people then responded to. I think Donald Trump is executing every part of his agenda in almost exactly the way that he promised he was going to, up to and including enforcing laws in the United States that have been on the books for a very, very long time that his predecessor chose simply not to execute. You throw that on top of the fact that he's having this extraordinary success on the world stage, and I just think Democrats from Obama on down are having a heck of a time understanding where they went wrong and how Donald Trump has captivated a nation and now the entire world. Obama...
The relationship is interesting.
I think you're exactly right. I mean, Obama's presidency delivered Trump, and then Biden's presidency delivered Trump stronger than ever. So that Obama-Biden political era, I mean, the net result of it is that Donald Trump is now one of the strongest presidents in the modern American political era.
All right, so let me tell you a story, okay? I think I've mentioned this before, and I'll just say it again. My dad, back in 2016, while the presidential debates were going on between President Trump, Ben Carson, and so on, were having their debates, my dad asked me a question: who do you think would win? I said, I'm not very sure, but I think Donald Trump is good for America. And he asked me why. I said, Donald Trump is a businessman, and he will make good business decisions for the country. That was what I told him. And when President Trump won, I was glad that he won. But why would I be glad that President Trump would win over someone who Barack Obama had endorsed? Because Barack Obama is black. His father is from Africa. I should have solidarity with Barack Obama. Why would I say I essentially do not have any solidarity with Barack Obama? Barack Obama spent his time not enriching Africa. He spent his time not trying to get Africa, because, hey, you're African. Okay, so share with us some wisdom on how we can get out of poverty. Share with us some wisdom how we can move our countries from being third world countries to first world countries. Do you know what Barack Obama spent most of his time trying to sell us in Africa? Gay marriage. That was what he spent his 8 years trying to sell us in Africa. Gay marriage. We didn't open one space center. We didn't open anything that would move the needle economically. He wanted to sell us gay marriage. And once I saw that for 8 years, I said to myself, anyone he's endorsing, I am not interested in seeing running the United States of America. Plus, Hillary Clinton had historically been a horrible person. We saw what she did with Libya, and we were like, okay, no, we don't think we want more of that. So that's my train of thought. All right, so no one yet giving me any opinion on what you would do if you were in President Trump's shoes. All right, so option number one, if you had a blue city and state resisting federal officers from doing their job and actively stirring up your population to attack federal workers, what would I do? I have three options. Let me start with three options. One, I would leave the state be, allow the state to keep their illegal immigrants and their crime and let them do whatever they like. That's option number one. What are the consequences of option number one? Those states eventually sign up all of the illegal immigrants on their voter rolls. They hold a census, essentially gerrymander their districts, turn them blue, turn the entire state blue, as if Chicago, California, and which other state was it? Well, Chicago and California and Portland aren't already blue. They're blue as blue can be. Okay, so now they want to get more congressional seats because now there's a boom in their population because they've taken in a massive number of illegal immigrants, and now they are actually going to become a swing state. I think that's how that works. Let me know in the chat. They become a swing state. So President Trump does nothing. It creates a problem further down the line for Republican candidates who want to run for president because these states now have more congressional seats. They have more electoral votes, and it becomes a problem to win a vote down the line. So President Trump, I think, shouldn't do that, my opinion. Option number two, President Trump, let's see. He attempts to sue the state. He sues the state. So he has to first of all sue at the state level, I think. I don't know how this works. Let me know. Sues at the state level, doesn't win, goes up to the Supreme Court level. Maybe he wins. But there's also the question of does the Supreme Court have the right to order a state governor to tell the law enforcement to protect federal employees? That becomes a constitutional crisis. Okay? And then the Democrats will have that talking point of, well, this is a constitutional crisis. The Supreme Court is trying to tell us what to do and how to run our states. Now we need to pack the courts. And then, third option, send in the National Guard. Democrats have done it before. JFK sent in the National Guard when California, the governor of California, refused to enact integration in public schools. So he had to send in the National Guard to force the kids, to escort the black kids into the schools that were being desegregated. So saying that it hasn't been done before, it was done before, and it was done by a Democrat president. Okay. So, Bert Penny, thank you so much for your chat. While it isn't ideal to have your military deployed in your country, it is the president's duty to protect federal assets, human and capital, using military assets, period. Bert, are you chatting from the United States? Are you American? Or are you chatting from elsewhere? Let me know in the chat, because I am not American, but I know this. I agree with you. Bert. So sometimes these arguments don't make sense. It's like, why are we having this argument? Federal law enforcement, Canada. Okay, we're both in Canada, Bert. Well done. Thank you so much for the comment. And please keep them coming. Why would you let federal assets get destroyed, put them at risk? And you know what? There's always a domino effect. If the federal government doesn't protect federal agents, people wouldn't want to work for the federal government because they don't protect their own. And so the people signing up for ICE deployments and so on would drastically reduce. Look at what happened under Joe Biden, and Can you hear me now? Hello, can you hear me now? Ah, geez. Okay, I think I'm back. All right, so, all right, 24.6. Okay, thanks, Bert, for letting me know. I didn't know. I have to keep an eye on the sound meter. Thanks for letting me know. All right, so where can you tell me where the audio cut off so that I can backtrack if I need to? Or let me just restart the story, okay? We're looking at the story here. Speaker Johnson lists off an insane list of Democrat. Okay, no problem. Insane Democrat demands to end government shutdown. 24.6 million to climate resilience in Honduras. That doesn't sound like America. 13.4 million to civic engagement in Zimbabwe. 3.9 million to LGBTQI plus democracy grants in the Balkans. 2.9 million to desert locust reduction in Africa. This is all your taxpayer money, by the way. Well spent. $2 million to organizing for feminist democratic principles in Africa. Let's hear him say it. I hope I haven't spoiled the report by reading this off.
And they would send $500 million to liberal news outlets by refunding the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. It would also restore up to $5 billion of American taxpayer funds for wasteful spending for international projects. Here's a couple of examples. This is in their legislation, their counterproposal on the CR to keep the lights open. This is what they want to do. They want to spend $24.6 million of your hard-earned dollars as a taxpayer for climate resilience in Honduras. They want to spend $13.4 million for civic engagement in Zimbabwe. They want to send $3.9 million for LGBTQI plus democracy grants in the Western Balkans. They want to spend $2.9 million of your dollars for desert locust risk reduction in the Horn of Africa. And $2 million for, quote, organizing for feminist democratic principles in Africa. We are not doing that. And they would send $500 million.
Yeah, so the Republicans are refusing to waste the taxpayer money of Americans. And the Republicans are refusing to do that. And the Democrats are saying that they are wrong for not engaging in waste, fraud, and abuse. Those projects sound very much like fraud to me. Why would you send all that money for all of those projects in Africa? And believe me, once that money gets into Africa, it disappears. Sometimes I even feel like it doesn't even leave the United States. The money just evaporates while it is in Washington, D.C. This is fraud at the highest levels of government in the United States. All right, so let's just call it what it is. Excuse me, sorry about that. I used to think that the United States had fraud, waste, and abuse locked down and completely eradicated. But after paying attention to the goings-on in the government of the United States, oh boy, how wrong I was. So the Democrats want to spend over $1 trillion. They want $1 trillion to be released before they stop the shutdown. And they have been saying that this is a Trump shutdown. Meanwhile, they're the ones who threatened to shut down the government if they didn't get their way. Well, they didn't get their way and the government is shut down. Well, whose fault is it? Of course, the person who threatened to shut down the government if they didn't get their way. And now they're saying through MSNBC and CNN that this is a Trump shutdown. Well, it is a Schumer shutdown from all indications. And we are now on, I think this is day what? The shutdown started, this is day 12, I think. This is the 12th day or 13th day of the shutdown. So it's interesting to watch. And there are speculations that this shutdown is being held so that the No Kings protest happening this Saturday would have a lot of critical mass and anger and talking points saying that the president is causing families to go without food stamps. The president is depriving young mothers of the necessary funding they need to take care of their kids and so on. It's all calculated to create outrage. And when you see how they are farming for outrage, using the American people as fodder, right? It should upset you. It should upset you. And though I don't live in the United States, watching it happen is problematic, because what I have learned over time is that whatever happens in the United States eventually finds its way into other countries that look up to the United States. And if other countries begin to do this, what will the world look like? Where people who lean left hold the people hostage until they get their way, or unless they get their way. So let me know what you think of this in the chat, because the question is this. Mainstream media is trying to pressure the Republicans to acquiesce to the Democrat Party, telling them, look, it's your fault that the party, that the government is shut down unless you let us have our way. It's like a child throwing a tantrum and refusing to stop throwing a tantrum until you let them have their way. My youngest threw a tantrum yesterday at Thanksgiving dinner. We were out to Thanksgiving dinner with friends, and he chose the worst time to go on a tantrum. He was whining and crying for about an hour. And when we sat down to have dinner, it was as if he ramped up his rage and was literally screaming at the dinner table. What did I do? I picked up the young man because my wife said, look, I should, let him be, that she'll calm him down, and she wasn't succeeding. So I picked him up, took him to a private room, and we had a come to Jesus moment. I told him, look, this isn't going to work. You better shut up. We're having dinner with friends, or else you're going to be out here by yourself. And you know what happened? The young man calmed down. He's 3 years old. He's intelligent enough to know that he's in trouble unless he behaves himself. And I think that in government, people should learn how to hear no and not. Sorry, my youngest is called. Yes, James. Okay, fine. So both of you should have dinner. I'll be right down, okay? All right. So that's my youngest, not knocking on the door. All right. Sorry about that. So yeah, the Republican Party should not cave, but we're going to have a lot of stories being told that this is the fault of President Trump and the Republican Party. 2.9 million for desert locusts risk in Africa. All right, so let's move on to the final story. All right, so here's the final story. Okay, we have our Tylenol Americans. Okay, if you know what that means. We have Americans who think that, now, to be honest, let's not play games. This tactic has been used in pre-Soviet Russia. You release the mentally unwell and the criminals into the general population, cause problems until the people say, we will give you anything, just make it stop. And then they say, well, you have to give us the power and the authority to do what needs to be done. And they say, yes, we will vote in the Bolsheviks. And then the Bolsheviks are given power. They say, thank you very much. And then they take that power and use it against the people. And that's the tactic that I'm seeing here. Same for the Nazi party and for the fascist party. They amplify what they want people to see as the ills of the society, the ills of the current leadership. Here's what's going wrong. They are the problem. If you give us power, you guys will have heaven on earth. And then the people say, yes, we will give you power. Just make it stop. Meanwhile, most of the problems were caused by the people telling you that they're going to solve the problem. Problem created, they offer the solution, and then they take over everything. So here's Antifa. So Antifa is in Chicago, is doing this. So let's just watch this video and then we'll just give some commentary. Meanwhile, let me know your thoughts in the chat of the stories so far, your thoughts on this story, and then we'll just have a conversation once this clip is done.
And when you first got on scene and you were able to talk to some neighbors and some witnesses there on the scene and describe to us what initially...
Judy, wait 1 second.
Okay.
I see Chicago police are arriving and putting themselves in the middle of the situation right now. It appears there might be someone in command, from what I can see, approaching the area. I'm not sure if this is in an attempt to start dispersing the crowd. But we have just in the last few seconds seen Chicago police, who had remained at bay, now starting to put themselves in the middle of the, oh God. Protesters are starting to throw rocks. We're going to get away from the scene right now, Judy.
Okay, Michelle, you take care of yourself. I'm going to let her get off the phone. We really appreciate it. Get to a safe place. So what you're watching, what you continue to watch, is exactly what Michelle has been describing. This again.
So it's a misnomer to call them protesters. Once they start throwing rocks, they are no longer protesters, they are rioters. The mainstream media runs cover for these kinds of behavior by calling what they're doing protesting when they are clearly rioting. Once you start throwing rocks and projectiles at law enforcement or at anyone who isn't on your side, you have switched from protesting to rioting.
At the intersection 105th and Avenue N, last Michelle said, as protesters started throwing rocks, and you can see that there is some chemical being deployed right there at this intersection. Just prior to this, you did see what appeared to be Chicago police officers and some commanders there trying to have some type of a dialogue with the protesters there at the intersection. It would seem that they were trying to disperse the crowd and maybe usher them off the street so that the agents could possibly move their vehicles. And it was at that point that Michelle noticed that protesters started throwing rocks, and this is the end result. Earlier, we had heard that there were pepper balls being sprayed into the crowd because someone had thrown eggs, or some neighbors had thrown something at the agents. And now reports of rocks being thrown, and that was coming from Michelle, a reporter right there on the ground. She has now gotten off the phone with us. They're trying to get to a safer place, of course, but we can continue to watch this picture. Fortunately, with Chopper 7 up in the air, we can still continue to monitor what is happening here. Again, if you are just joining us here on stream, this situation has been very tense for the last, maybe about...
So this is ABC News, okay? And I was waiting for them to call this a mostly peaceful protest. Yeah, because they tend to do that. They tend to say that things like this are mostly peaceful. So you have Antifa, you have the riots in Portland, you have the riots now extending to Chicago. And what do those two locations have in common? You have Democrat leadership that outright call the ICE enforcement, federal law enforcement, Nazis, the Gestapo, and they continue to fuel the negative sentiment they have against federal agents. Hold on, James. Hold on. James, I'm working. Yes, James. Sorry. Okay, so go down and play with Zoe, and then I'll be downstairs soon, okay? All right, please close the door. All right. Sorry. Yeah. So, I used to stream at noon, but because most of my audience are unable to join at that time, I had to move it to the evening. Now, in the evenings, I have the kids, and the kids tend to walk in and do this. So, sorry about that. So, where was I? So, we have these incidents happening in Chicago and Portland and in California. What do these three locations have in common? The leadership of those cities rile up the citizens of those cities, and they begin to attack federal law enforcement. Democrats are quick to call out January 6th. Very quick to do so. And they say that, that federal law enforcement was attacked. One person died, which isn't true. They weren't killed at the incident, and people are saying that those two incidents aren't related. The person who died after the incident at the Capitol building wasn't related to why that officer passed, but they would call it anyway and say that it is related. And they've tried very hard to make January 6th the worst thing that has happened in the history of the United States of America, including September 11th. We've had at least 3 January 6th situations across America, and the mainstream media has made it look like it's a walk in the park. It's just, that's a regular Tuesday. We've seen Barack Obama call crime in Chicago, just ordinary street crime. Meanwhile, these are crimes where American lives are lost. And he belittles it to make it look like it's not important. You don't need the National Guard to go in to enforce law and order, where local PD clearly isn't doing the job. You have California, where the governor essentially wants to be Trump. He can't be Trump. He wants to be Trump, but he essentially has empowered his leadership to attack Trump and federal law enforcement at every turn. They all have one thing in common. Their citizens attack federal agents, and crime in those cities are through the roof. So it's unfortunate that that's where we are with law enforcement and with the goings on in these cities or at these cities. But once you see that pattern, you can't unsee it. All right, so we're done for today. We'll be back again tomorrow with another live stream. We're going to be considering doing updates on the ICE facilities in Portland. And we're also going to be looking at the developments that are leading up to the No Kings protest on Saturday. Hopefully, there will be some updates. We want you to be involved in the story. So consider please sending in your comments. If you're watching after the fact, please post your comments in the comment section. If you're watching live, try and catch my attention with posting a chat so that I can respond to you quickly before we go off the air. But I want to thank you so much for being a part of it. Thank you, Canary Kin, for your comments and engagement. Thank you for Bert Penny for your comments and engagement. I appreciate your engagement in this live stream. It is helpful. The live stream is only useful when we have an engagement while the stream is ongoing, and you make it very interesting for others as well. So I appreciate you. Tomorrow we're going to be back here by 5 p.m. ADT, and we're going to be talking about what's happening in the news and updates, and possibly we'll be reacting to some videos. I would like to do some live reaction to some videos that I have been looking at, and I would like you to be a part of that. Thank you so much for being a part of today's stream. Until tomorrow, God bless you, and I'll see you on the next one.